Stephen, a UK-based psychic medium and teacher recognized for sharing the natural beauty of mediumship through direct experience rather than belief, a former elite competitive snowboarder and skier, the overall British champion 2025-2026, his life took a profound turn after the loss of his brother, opening him up to the awareness that consciousness continues beyond the physical body. Today, Stephen brings the same dedication and passion he once gave to sport into mediumship, healing, and teaching, offering one-to-one sessions, demonstrations, and conversations that help others experience a deeper, more profound understanding of life, death, and the soul connection. You can find out more about Stephen in the description and his website, stephentrolland.com. So thank you for taking the time out to join us today, Stephen. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, and thank you for inviting me. It's an honour and a privilege to be in your company and also just share and talk about all things spiritual in some way.
Likewise. Thank you so much for being here. I'm glad you could be here. And before we get started, just so the people who are going to watch this video, can you share a little bit about your background and where you're coming from?
Oh my goodness, I'll try and keep it short. I've got a habit of just blethering on for a little while. So my background is well, in my snowboarding days, so I'll still snowboard. I was actually teaching the local snowboard club today up in the mountain, and I live in the Highlands of Scotland. Beautiful here. We get the aurora, northern lights, and just millions of stars. It's always an inspiring place to be, as is the mountain. And I think looking back is kind of where it began, my soul journey in some way, because I did once I opened my heart to snowboarding, and it's a bit like being in the presence sometimes as well, is it completely fulfilled me. And when I was going down the mountain, for example, it would be anything and all life, any troubles that was happening in my life at this time or that time, everything just dissolved, and all that um all that was there, all that was real at that time was just the experience within that moment, and the exhilaration, and just all the feelings that brought. And again, it's kind of like our spiritual journey and being and mediumship as well, psychic awareness, because I guess it's kind of unique to me because I'm a unique individual, as everyone is. And I think that's a small part of what makes us beautiful. So it was, I went through a good few years in competing for my country, competing for Britain, where I'm actually the current British champion now, from being in the snow dome. I won that this year at the good old age of 52. Don't tell everyone my age, though. I'm only kidding. And I forgot what I was going to say. But that journey in itself, and what it took me on, was certainly a journey of exploration, and living in the moment was absolutely the biggest part of it. Because financially at that time as well, as I didn't have anything really. I just relied on sponsorship, and even then, when people gave me or kindly sponsored me, um, I would have to spend that on trying to find more sponsorship and buying my snowboards and all this kind of stuff. And that was before I even managed to leave the country. My home village very kindly got together, even without me knowing it sometimes. I guess because they believe in me, it really touched me. And they created fundraising events for me too. They helped me on my journey and my snowboarding experience. But it was during those days, is when I was out in France, and um, basically my brother passed away in 2005, and there was just this feeling that I knew there was something up, you know. And I tried to phone my mum, tried to phone my sister, tried to phone my dad. No one was answering. I knew it was about my brother. I don't know what it was, but at the time I didn't. But it's just the experience that I had at that time was like the whole room was filled with his presence. And it brought me to tears, and I just knew there's something not right. And then my sister phoned me as well, says that my brother's been uh, he's got a brain hemorrhage. He's been flown to Aberdeen and so on. So of course I flew home and I spent 2 days by his bed. And I guess that was the the start of the journey. And as I moved forward, I just saw on the TV, excuse me, a famous American medium, and I just felt like I just want to know more. I just felt that I now know that it was in some way like a soul calling, and everyone's different in their journey, of course. As I mentioned, everyone's unique. But yes, it'd be great to hear and feel my brother and so much. I've had amazing experiences with, which I can go into later if we like. But it was more so I just really wanted to know how it worked. And then through that time of, should I say, trying to meditate, and I'd go up this mountain, I could see right through the valley, down on top of all the some of the hills and so on, and the trees. And I was so busy trying so hard, trying to meditate, listening to this on my headphones at the time, which was a CD player at the time. But anyway, I just gave up and I thought, I took it off and I just took a deep breath. And in that moment, there must have been a space of surrender, of not trying. And an experience happened. And I guess it's so much more than words. And it was more with my connection and not with the spirit world at this time. And when I looked down, as I took that breath, it's like my awareness just went to the breath of wind that was blowing up the mountain, bending all the tips of the trees as I went up and just making all these patterns. But as that was happening, my awareness went to the clouds, the wind as I was feeling it, and everything was moving in the most perfect harmony together, which I know now is the natural world of cause and effect. But I felt a part of it. I was it. And if we can think of ourselves, that we are an expression of life weaved within its beauty, and then it kind of brings to perspective that we are so much more. Well, it did for me that time, than just my physical senses. Because again, the experience is so much more than what words I can say now. And I guess that was the start of the journey that then moved me on to exploring more and then realizing that stuff that happened in the past wasn't my imagination, um, and so on. And then just for many years, I dedicated my whole life, every single day, right up until now, and I will always will continue it as we're forever soulfully growing, evolving, and I guess I've surrendered to that the best I can, to relax into the arms of the soul as it embraces life and shows and proves that there's so much more to life. You know, there are many people, and I was really skeptical as well, that are skeptic, and that's fine and it's healthy, but sometimes it's only because they've not had the experience. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but I would just say to everybody, if you've had a spiritual experience in any way, don't let anybody rob you from it by trying to put their perspective on it. Say, oh, it could be just this. Oh, it could be just that. Nah, that's possible. It's like, but they're coming from a different perspective where those that have had those spiritual experiences, they're coming from the true experience itself. And that's where the true reality lies. And so anyway, that's where part of my journey, and then now it's brought me into your good company now.
Oh, that's a beautiful experience and journey. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, because like snowboarding, although it's seems very distant from mediumship,
Yeah.
it sounds like that, you had a lot of spiritual experiences within it that helped you to get to mediumship.
Yes. Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. And I think it was just being in the moment and something that really and truly fulfilled me, brought my soul alive in some sense.
Hmm.
Maybe because I was in the moment and everything in all life, all those hardship disappeared. And so it was a soulful experience. There is a saying, heal the soul. And I get this is only my opinion, that I do not believe that is true. I believe it's the purity and the beauty within the expression of the soul that heals the mind and brings um, everything spiritual into our perspective as well. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
and a lot of it is about being in the moment. And I love that you express that, like when you are in the moment, nothing else exists. It's
mm,
like a oneness. That's
absolutely,
beyond time. There's nothing to really, how do you describe it? It's hard to find words for it. So, mhm,
absolutely, and I guess that there is no words to it because words are so small. It's just a part of the expression that we try to embrace the experience with to try and explain it, I guess. But in some way, um, when that experience has happened or that experience is behind it, it brings the presence alive in words. So when someone's really coming from a place of truth, a true friend, for example, even in this life, especially when it's given with love and non-judgment, if you like. And then there's a freedom in that opens their heart and their soul to embody words that can really touch another person's soul, to bring meaning and feeling, allow their soul to rise in some way, to awaken in some sense. Yeah,
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and the part about where you sensed something wasn't right, with your brother,
mm,
I've had experiences with that prior to, and they weren't, family members. They were just people that I met. Like I've had knowings, when people were going to pass, and for whatever reason, I was able to pick up on the information, and I didn't understand it, and this is back when I was a teenager and I didn't have the awareness that I have now and the experiences that I have now. But
yeah,
yeah, I feel like we have the ability to tune into that energy and know when another person is getting ready to, transition because from my own experience, having a near death experience and all the awakenings, I know that we are not an end, we are an evolving consciousness,
mm,
from my understanding. Yeah. Um,
yeah,
Now, has your brother come after his passing and shared
oh,
information, or have you had any
absolutely,
experiences?
absolutely. Actually, I just did a workshop there and embracing for someone to embrace their loved ones as well. So it was a beautiful experience. But with my brother, um, It wasn't how long after, it was a few months after. And I was just after sitting listening to an incredible medium I've been in the company of many times. He's sadly passing in the spirit world now, a guy called Glyn Edwards. And he created a, a practice, if that's it, called Sitting in the Power. And to me, when I listened to that, that's when I really started to feel change, because it's sitting in that presence, as you mentioned it, that consciousness, as you mentioned beautifully there, and it brought that alive in some way. And I was sitting there for about probably 45 minutes, and and then I just thought, oh, I'm going to stick on. It was Tony Stockwell, Healing the Wounded Soul, it was called. And I think it was like track 7 or track 8, and it was To Me Your Loved Ones. But as the track turned on, and again it shows how natural this expression can be. And because I didn't try to make it happen, I didn't say, okay, this is going to happen and let's make that happen. Because when the conscious mind is involved too much, and then it'll always roar louder than the soul. And what happened is, it's like the voice of Tony in my headphones just softened, like he was in the next room in some way. I could hear it, but it wasn't taking presidency within my mind, within my awareness. And again, this is so much more than words. So much more. I find it hard every time to find words to explain that he came so close, my brother, where two souls were completely one. And where his tears were my tears were his tears. And usually, of course, if you meet someone in this life, or say, as my mum's passed away, I would maybe like to say, no, how are you? What's it like over there? You know, have you seen this? Have you been with my sister? Not even a conversation was needed, because everything and anything that could ever be needed or wanted was completely in that moment in time. And again, I find it hard to find words to that, because there's nothing that will really justify the strength and the reality of it, because it's too much more. And then, so we sat there for, I don't know how long it was. I'm guessing about 15, 20 minutes. And then it wasn't until he started to withdraw a little bit, as then when a conversation of mine came in, where I just saw imagery. And I just saw my sister, my nephew, a rubber duck, and football. And I don't know what that means, of course it's just. So my sister's quite open to this. So I went and sent her a message. And she says, okay, my nephew has just finished playing with his favourite rubber duck in the bath, and now he's sitting watching football with his dad. I mean, it's beautiful, and it proves a separate mind in the way, because it's not been picked up from a person that sits in front of me. It was completely separate at the time. But also, many people have said, that's good evidence, and not devaluing it. That's good evidence for you, and really nice. But it doesn't even skiff the surface of that experience beforehand, because it was so pure and so real, and it's one that is always and will forevermore stay with me. And another experience, I've had many. I've been lucky enough, and especially being a working medium, and taking workshops and things. When students have been practicing or doing exercises, he's taken as opportunities to come through, of course.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you
Well,
for asking that.
you're welcome. That is a lot to unpack there because what you said is a lot, even in that short period of time. Because, like, with near-death experiencers, have you listened to any of them speak about their experience?
I have, just like on YouTube as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, I can't, I'm just me, I'm terrible with names. But, oh, oh, sorry, I can't remember his name. But I've been listening to stuff and where he has investigated thousands and thousands of experiences and people and interviewed them and so on. And
Was it Alex Ferrari?
oh no, it wasn't.
No.
No, it
Okay.
wasn't. Um, no, it wasn't. But that's a name I'm gonna have to try and remember now. Try
Yeah.
and look it up. Yes, and
Yeah.
there's yeah, but it's always comes in like as far as I know, they will always come back to know like what's really important in life. Where am
Mm-hmm.
I going to put my attention to now? What really matters in life? And have an experience with their loved ones when they're there, having experiences, seeing what's happening at that time, looking upon themselves. And I guess there's so much more than my words, again, because I'm limited, only
Mm-hmm.
because, yes, I've listened and I've felt, but I've not truly had that experience myself. So I could say that I am limited in it, but
Mm-hmm.
open to it. And really, um, I would like to investigate it a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
So
go in,
when,
not to go into one myself, of course.
right. Yeah. 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 So I've had a near-death experience. And I know a lot of people talk about it. And like when you were sharing about how when spirit comes that close, there's no need to ask questions because you
Oh,
kind of it all, you know all. There's no reason to ask questions.
yes.
It's like you're one with it. And then as we separate, the questions start coming, you can have the conversations. And it's almost like when we separate from source into the
Mm,
physical body where we start with the mind and we contemplate and we have the questions because we're not connected, but in that experience of being on the other side or a near death experience or in your situation, which you can use to kind of compare it, and
mm,
see like when you were in that space, there was no need for question,
absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely.
that's how I like to like when I have these conversations, it can help me to make
Yeah.
sense of it. And so
Oh,
that is
thank
very
you for that.
helpful because when we are connecting with spirit from their side, they have all the information that they can bring to us and then they can help us guide us. And, a lot
Yes.
of us can be skeptic, about
Mm,
what is really the truth of our existence, our consciousness, our awareness. And these things can help us to really see the truth, right? Even though
yes.
all of our truths are different, but we can always connect them together,
Mm,
you
yeah.
know.
I think when we look at nature, natural law, and how it is uh, within our true nature as unique individuals and how it moves through us and works with us. And then that truth can reveal itself in that way, well, in some way. And there's when we look at nature itself, in my opinion, it's pure because it cannot lie. It's a natural world of cause and effect. And I've got a nephew, and he was quite new to it. And I was saying, nature cannot lie. And he says, "What? Can nature talk? Can nature talk?" And I said, "Absolutely, but through a language of expression. If we're open to it, because we're a part of it, in a space of surrender, it can embrace us, move us, and just like we mentioned." one experience, another experience, two experiences. One in the very early beginning of my unfoldment, when I consciously started to go and search more. I was at a course in Wales, and I was in my room, and I'm just sitting there, and I went into this kind of, I guess, an altered state, because it is a quiet contemplation. Um, and then I was just aware of this little girl, and I knew she had light brown hair. I knew she was holding a teddy. I knew she was 4 years old. I knew she wanted to speak to her dad. But the thing is, I didn't ask those questions. I was the observer of an experience, a soul to soul experience, what I know now. And that's where the true conversation is happening. If I can call it that, conversation, maybe not experience is a better word to say. And then later on, I randomly got selected to go and do a student demonstration. And then during that demonstration, they played some music. And as the music, there's a certain point in a certain song. I can't remember the song, but there's a certain point I just felt this welling up of emotion within me. And then someone else demonstrated before me. And then when I stood up, I says, I've got this little girl here. She's 4 years old. She's got brown hair. She's looking for her dad. She's got her teddy. And her dad was in the congregation. She had a beautiful connection there at that time. Of course, she had her teddy, because a teddy got placed in with her. And she would say, thank you for giving me my teddy. Her real message was, yes, I'm here, alive, and all that kind of stuff, because it's about life. It's not about dying. It's about life and living. Her message was like, Daddy, I love you. You know I've not gone. And that in itself, there was a feeling that moved through me at that time. And you could see and feel everyone's expression as they were in the congregation, because there was a presence that was alive in the room. And then after, when I spoke to the dad, he came up to say thank you, shake my hand, and so on. And he says, I felt her. There was a point, just at that point, in that song, I felt her, and it was the exact same point as I felt her, as well as the emotion rise. So it just shows that there's an intelligence already happening beyond the conscious mind, whether it is connecting with people in this life or the spirit world. Is a soul to soul communion. If we can become aware of that sometimes, and then we can fall into that experience, it will move us to the right people at the right time. It will really treasure and have a strength where friendships can blossom for life in this life, but also that communion with those we love in the spirit world, because in my opinion, it's just a different state of perception, because we are living in a physical world. It's in a physical body. This world has an influence upon our awareness, of course, that most of the day takes its presidency, and it's got its place, But if we can really, truly be within that soul presence that time as well, it could show us how to live. It needs to be fulfilled, or wants to be fulfilled. It knows us better than we know ourselves. And if we are to open ourselves to this, and in whatever way is natural to each individual, and then it'll find its way. It knows how to weave itself within our thoughts, like that conversation or that experience with that little girl. I was going to say little lassie there, but that's some of the Scottishness coming out. But it just proves there's so much more to life. And if we could really see from our own soul's perspective, and wow, how much more our lives could be fulfilled. in every way possible. And I guess that's the thirst that keeps me moving and walking, trying to do my best to walk with this expression of life, which is the soul in some way, and its experiences, and learning from each other, whether I'm teaching or being in your good company right now as well, as you beautifully said about and put a perspective about your near-death experiences and the oneness where no questions are needed. So I'm learning here too,
Mhm. Yeah,
always.
definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we're all just on the journey of learning and exploring and understanding, and possibly that's the purpose of life, of being here, because like if the other side does exist and yet we're here and we're limited to that consciousness, that understanding, and that access, or that
Mm,
experience, then why be here? What is really the purpose of life, right? So.
yeah, I think as well that it's like a download of consciousness to our individual consciousness in some way. And if we can think also, like even now, um, or when I give a demonstration or a reading, for example, over Zoom, um, there's been many people that have felt their loved ones close at that minute in time. So they don't come to me here to stand next to me and say, whisper in my ear, I'm going to speak to that lady over there. I want to speak to that person there. It's because they are already connected to their loved ones, they're closer to them than they are for me. The true conversation is happening there, but within the expression of life itself, that there's this, we're all interconnected. Therefore, distance and miles fall away, and there can that oneness, that one consciousness. I've heard of with near-death experience as well, that we could just think to be somewhere, and I'm there. We don't have to jump on a bus, jump on a plane, travel through the night, 15 hours, 20 hours, I don't know, to get somewhere. We can be there any time. And even now, it's like, say, if I think of my wife or my boy with love, I've got a 7-year-old boy, and they're upstairs, and he's trying not to make a noise. So it's like I'm connected soulfully, even although there may be a distance. But the beauty in it that really does and truly connect us is the thread of life, which is love, that weaves us together and allows communication to be possible as I do my best to surrender into that love presence and offer words of maybe guidance and so on. And just in that workshop there, for when people were talking about how sometimes our loved ones can come and guide us. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because maybe people like to look up on, say, they call guides, inspirers, if you like, for guidance. Our loved ones are, and our own soul guidance is just as precious. But to come from someone we've spent a lifetime with or a short time in this lifetime is so special and so sacred, again, as it goes beyond words. And just to be a part of that, just a tiny part of that, I've got no words for to how it makes me feel, I guess, that if it fulfills my soul, then keeps me on that journey of self-discovery, because that's where it all is, really, isn't it? Self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like this drawing, like that just kind of guides you, At least it has been for me, since 2010. I've just been on this journey of discovering and seeking
yeah,
and, just exploring, consciousness and who we are and the truth of it. And as a child, I remember asking my mother over and over again, when am I going to start learning, everything that I want to learn? And she always thought I was talking about school, art, math,
yeah,
arithmetic. And I'm like, no, not what I want to
yeah,
learn. And yeah, and it was very delayed. It was like 2010 when it all started expanding,
yeah,
Life has its place. And it's like, I guess everybody's journey and awakening is different, but everybody's important, their journey, whatever reason they're here and why they're here, what they're doing, has its
mm,
own, almost like a timeline, if that makes sense. Because I always kind of knew what was going to be my awakening and journey, but as a child, like I just didn't know, when that was all
yeah,
going to happen. But I knew it was going to happen at the same time. But I think we all have a intricate part in this play, the role that we're
mm,
playing, whether we're aware, conscious or not,
yeah,
but I feel like it's all going to come into play when we're ready, basically.
yeah. What comes to mind is an incredible lady called Mavis Patilla. I was lucky enough to be in her company many times before she's passed to the spirit world. And now she's an incredible teacher for oh, 50 years or more, like at the Arthur Findlay College and so on. But she had a quote of the soul called you and the spirit world says, thank God you're awake. And I think that in itself it depends on what can awaken us, I guess. May it
Mm,
be like this YouTube station that you have now, this channel, should I say, and the conversations you've had in the past. Maybe the words that you offered there just now, maybe it's something that I've said. Maybe there's something within the presence of those words that really resonates with someone. And sometimes they might not get all the picture straight away, but sometimes a seed has been sown,
mm,
and that in itself might silently and softly grow until it's time. Sadly, sometimes through a maybe, as I said before, I came into this with the passing of my brother, but it wasn't until I really adventured into it as to realize that things that happened in the past wasn't my imagination. So you get people that can come into this where spiritual awareness, awakening, if you like, where they've had like a hard time. They're forced within themselves to look for a bigger, better reason to life rather than how it presents itself, or a spiritual experience in whatever way that is. And some people just have it naturally to think, my gosh, what is happening? I need to find out more about this. But I think what can lack in the world is true guidance, which comes from true experience and true knowledge that has done a lot of researching, like you have done, you spent a good bit of time. And it's not that it's wrong, because everyone's on their own individual journey and at different stages of their journey, if you like, their paths of life. And but sometimes it's not always the case where the knowledge that they have is the true knowledge. But if they're open to it, where they are selfless in
mm,
it, non-judgmental, and not in a way of saying this is the way it is and that's it. Somebody told me this and that's the way it is. I would say go from your own experiences I remember one time as well, I was sitting in the presence, I was just so like my drive to learn more. And I was sitting in the presence a good few years ago now, in the presence of self. And then I was contemplating about mediumship, about being the medium, rather than being like, rather than looking at self. And I was thinking, okay, so if I do this, this will work like that. Oh, and if that happens, that means this, and so on. And then I felt my friends come close, I call them, and they said, let go of everything you know about mediumship. And of course, as part of me, I'm like, what? I've dedicated my life to this. What do you mean? And I've spent thousands and tens of thousands of pounds traveling and so on, giving up everything. You know, my whole life is diverted. I mean, I could have had a nice house, a car, bought a house, and so much like material things.
Mm.
But I've chose this journey. And they even said, so what you're doing is you're creating a box. And that means anything that we give you will have to fit within that box. Throw away the box. It's far too small. And that in itself kind of really helped me to try and not be judgmental of others, be judgmental of myself, although I still do put myself down in many ways, you know. But it's I guess it was liberating. It was a feeling where, okay, I'm I'm learning the true place to learn from is source,
Mm.
and but how we marry source to knowledge comes through experience, but also um, learning what is true and real in some way, but how is true and real to you, or for those that are listening. I hope I've said that all right.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
everything you said makes sense. Yeah, and I can resonate with that, like, because whenever we do put ourselves in that box, it's hard for spirit or source or your
Yeah,
higher consciousness to work through all that stuff. And,
yeah,
it kind of blocks us from, having the right mind or the right understanding. And Buddhists even talk about the seeds that are planted, it may not, grow in that moment, but over time it does,
mhm,
and then it makes sense,
yeah.
so. Mm-hmm.
And I think is how much we're able to nourish ourselves. Like when I was doing an inspired talk in a spiritual service one time, a good few years ago now, um, I didn't have a plan for it, but I just says, okay, if you were to come up here, which was on the platform, and you had so many people in front of you, and each person said how much they maybe love you, how much all the goodness they see in you. I mean, even in a short lifetime, in this lifetime, no one would be able to embrace all of that in words. No, no, you, you'd be skipping the surface extremely, trying to embrace all those special times. Everything that has blessed and touched this space all of your life. You gotta find words, it's like how it would take you another lifetime to go through, or that lifetime again that you spent with them to go through each and every individual thing that has been experienced to bring that into perspective in some way. And then I said, okay, but that's just one person. And then think about another person, another person, another person. How many people have you touched without even knowing it? How many times have someone touched you just with their presence where no words are needed? And it says, can we measure a thought? I know they can do scientific things, but not in that way. It was we can't fit anything just like that box. We can't fit all of that lifetimes, all of those experiences in one thought, a few thoughts. It proves that we are so much more beautiful than we can ever possibly physically imagine, because that all that life experience that we hold, as I say, is touched and blessed this space, but the soul knows of it. Our
Mm-hmm.
soul embraces those experiences, but more so the presence can speak louder than words. As I mentioned, it can be carried in words, it can be carried in actions, where people doing good deeds for one another and so on. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we never really know how we affect another person. So it's always good to be
Mm.
mindful, with
Yes,
how we are showing up in the world, because we can make a big difference and we don't even really realize it. We don't have to be standing up on stage,
absolutely.
being Eckhart Tolle, we can make change just by smiling at somebody, that's we pass on the street. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely. And
Mm.
the soul knows of it as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
I know I've had many times where I just am in the presence of another person, just in a short interaction, and I can feel a lot, um, and it resonates because of the energy and what is beyond, like our energy and our consciousness from my own experiences doesn't end at the body. Like it goes beyond the body. We
mm,
can feel somebody's presence before they even enter a room.
yeah,
We can connect with them, like, and I can sense when, if they have something going on, or how they feel, or if they're in depression, or if they have an illness. And
yeah,
we can pick up on those things. It's an intelligence. And I feel like a lot of people, for whatever reason, sometimes they don't pick up on that. I'm not sure why, whether they are in that box, of just believing they are this human form, and not having the
yes,
understanding that we are beyond that.
yeah. And as you say, as I said, it's the experiences that can awaken us from that. I mean, we've got this body, and everyone is different, as I mentioned. And many people have mental differences
Mm,
also. But that's so. And one question I've been asked before is like, why do people do bad things? And I guess it's more just they've not really been truly aware, or the mind has not been touched by that purity of life. Like we mentioned, that you say when people come back from a near-death experience and their lives has changed, where they might have been like a hard business guy and everything's about money and material things, and we need money and material things, and we need to
mhm,
live a good life. But how their lives have changed, where they have so much more empathy towards people and so on. And in my opinion, every soul is pure, and because the soul is always evolving, whether it's in this life and the spirit world, there's a different state of consciousness, of awareness that's within us and around us constantly. We walk through it every day because we are it, we're a part of it. But if we think of someone that wasn't so nice in this life, if you like, when they go, if they don't learn it in this life, they will in the spirit world. When they go to the spirit world, they will, um, because the soul's pure and it's evolving, there's there's no question that it can only bring to the reality of the life experience of that person how much hurt they might have caused, what they would like call it, or life review, maybe. Um, but we get to see that and perceive that. And I know, like, many times in demonstrations and readings and things like that I've done, workshops, where loved ones that have not been so nice in life, they've always wanted to come back and make things right again. They've always to come back and say, I wasn't so nice. I'm sorry. And sometimes, depending on where the person is who is to receive this, where they are in that experience, might not be open to or ready to accept that apology, if you like. And that's natural as well, because goodness knows what's happened in their life. And I mean, it could be quite traumatic things, isn't there, that can go on in life. But in some way, we can certainly look at that person that what might not have been so nice. They're going through a lot of stuff. And it's not just going through a lot of stuff of seeing, oh my gosh, I could have done that better. No, no, no. The whole experience is so much more, where they feel and see and notice and experience everything they might have not done so nice to others. And every single person and every single emotion that has risen within others, in my opinion, they can experience that. And I guess that's what they are so um, um, presents to them, because the soul is pure. It can only start to bring clarity to mind. That's the better way to say it. And then I guess just takes time to move beyond that, or I guess as we see it, accept it, surrender to it, embrace it, even in this life, is then when we can really, really and truly see, okay, I might not have been so nice there. Let's change. I need to change. I'm the one. I'm the one that's not the best here. So I'm gonna do better now. And I think if we can embrace that for ourselves, I mean, not everyone is, including myself. Everyone. I mean, everyone's gone through times where we, even unintentionally, have not been nice to somebody, and then that's But I think as part of our growth, as the soul evolves in this life, have you ever noticed, maybe as you grow older, maybe it's to do with the chemistry and the body and the brain and all this kind of stuff, and how it could be open to it. But as I have grown older, anyway, I look back at my life. I thought, oh my gosh, the things that I'd done. If I could go back and tell myself, like, now, all those years ago, what I see now, it's like, no, you wouldn't have done that. So I guess it's all um, growth and learning, and just as you said, learning in some way too. Is earlier on you said, yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think anybody really has the intention to be harmful,
mm,
because in life, at least in the body, we do have some experiences that are not pleasant. And, as far as research goes, and counseling, when I went through my master's in counseling, they teach that for people hurt people, and they're acting from their wounds. They're not intentionally acting from
yeah,
their spirit self,
yeah,
their true self, they're acting out of character.
yes, yes,
And that's what's playing on in their minds. Although
mm,
there is also the concept that we all agreed to come here and to play out these parts and roles. So at some point, kind of like when I was a child, I was going to wake up and learn and understand as a child, when I just kind of knew, like, we know that we're going to, at the same time, though we don't have the intention to do it, we know that we're going to go through that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does.
Hmm. Yeah.
Thank you for
At least
sharing
that's
that.
what's been my understanding, that we all agree to come in and play the roles and be the parts to help each other learn and grow and evolve,
Mm,
because there's nobody here to play those roles, then how do we actually learn from them?
yeah, guess we learn from our mistakes, eh?
Hmm.
And other people's mistakes.
Yeah,
I've made
yeah.
many, I tell you.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, to kind of navigate these thoughts, and the
Yeah.
experiences to really kind of get a grasp of, why we're here, what we're doing, who we are, is this just a play, are these just roles that we're playing? And though we do a life review, I had a couple of life reviews throughout my lifetime, and then also the near-death experience, and then after I had like an out-of-body um, experience with
Wow.
doing a life review, and it's really interesting to kind of have all these experiences, about.
Yeah.
But I think it also goes to show that as a conscious we live beyond this realm, this body. Especially with
Yeah.
mediumship, bringing in those from the other side, to bring the guidance, for us.
Mm, yeah. And just as you mentioned that guidance as well, and I did mention that even through that workshop I did just a little while ago before I've been in your kind company, uh, we did an exercise where it's like, in my opinion, it's finding that outlet, that flow, um, opening the doors in some way to that like soul expression that carries the essence of those we love in it, because that's where the true experience is happening, as we mentioned before. Where this lady, she's a good medium herself, and she's been through a fair bit of stuff too, like hardship, And the exercise was, okay, you're going to deliver um, a contact, but from someone that you love, someone that loves you. And as she started, of course, we sat in the presence and so on beforehand. But as she started, the flow of feeling and emotion and the intelligence behind it that was for everybody else in the space that we were sharing over Zoom, like guidance and help for them. But it was also stuff that's been happening in her life where there was a lot of positivity in it that really helped lift that space of that individual. So really what we're looking at is the flow of inspiration that can move through us. And it got so beautifully personal, right down to the things that we did in childhood and so on. The feeling in the room as that became alive, as her sisters spoke through her in some way to everyone in the group. And then what we did is we moved to someone else to say, okay, what's the sister want to say through you? What does the sister want to say through you and through you? And I kind of helped guide them in some way to how does it make you feel? So it's moving into the presence, the personality of the person, and therefore that's because that's where the person is,
Mhm.
and it embraces we embrace the personality, especially. And the detailed information that came through about holding a dandelion in her hand and it was all crushed, and looking at this, and she wore the cape and you dressed up as witches, and the when you were kids, and her the funniness and the cheekiness and right down to the moon shapes that she wore in the cape, and all the detail that came through was just amazing. But at the same time, the intelligence and a hole in that space there was something for everybody because the presence was there, but also it really, really helped lift the individual who was sister came through to start with. So it's what I was saying there was loads of good evidence too, but presence is more than words. But I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, don't worry, I'll get it.
Okay.
As our sister came, it was a feeling, an emotion, as I mentioned, that embraced everybody. The intelligence in it, that's what it is. It was the flow, the outlet. I remember years ago, and I'm not saying this is wrong, because as I say, everyone's unique. Sometimes, not all the time, when I would go, go to a development space or a meditation space, you're going to go into meditation. You're going to receive this. Now come back. What did you get? I'm like, I can go ahead and then and then sometimes I get a little image of something. But it wasn't until I started to speak about that image, for example, that I saw, or a feeling, um, or a whisper that was weaved within my thoughts of a name, for example, or even just a word, its simplicity in it. One thought would lead to another, and therefore it'd move us on the journey then. That's the outlet, or that flow of unfolding as we go along. So we can communicate with our loved ones. It's just how do we do it? What is unique to you? And it won't be the same way all the time because we're evolving soul. And sometimes it might be a letter to heaven, keeping a journal. How are you today? What did you see today? I really hope that you saw my daughter um, giving me a kiss, giving me a hug, seeing her take her first steps. And what did you see? Did you see this? And then you could even, there's a beautiful saying the Spirit World said to me before. It's like sometimes when you think of us, it's because we thought of you first, because the soul to soul communion inspired those thoughts and memories and so on. And then if you are to write a journal, even just starting off with words that you don't even know what's going to lead into the next. Um, of course, I saw um, your your beautiful daughter taking her first steps and so on. And it's amazing how, like in the workshop, how the emotion built in that time, and that's where the blending is taking place. And there was one lady that was like, we were all nearly moved to tears because she was nearly moved to tears in it, but it was the feeling that happened. And I guess it's trying to find our way. Could it be the signs in life? It was just recently, a couple of months ago now, my mum passed the spirit world just over a year ago now. And my little boy, he was 6, he's now 7, now he's turned 7, but he called her, we call her Granny, but he calls her Gwanny. He doesn't get the R's right yet, right? He didn't then, it was quite cute. And then at my mum's day, when I had the honour of speaking at the service, if you like, um, we were at the cemetery, and as I started speaking, 2 white butterflies started flapping all around me, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then with my little boy, a week or 2 later, we were going to go down to the river, and we were going to go and throw skimmers in the river, skim across the water. And then a butterfly, as a white one, landed on his shoulder. He goes, I think Granny sent it, which was really nice. But the thing is like, what is behind that? What's the feeling? What is the experience behind that? So I just thought, that's nice. Then we went down to the river and he saw little stones in the shapes of hearts. And he says, oh, This one's for Mummy. This one's for you, Daddy. There's another one in the shape of a heart, and he saw a few. And then he got down, he saw one, and he picked one up. And he got halfway, not even halfway, he just turned down and looked at me. And he just seen the face on him. And I could feel it. He goes, I just felt granny close, Daddy. So it's just why didn't he get that with all the other stones? Just the experience behind it. And I would say for others that because we're, as I mentioned, we're an expression of life, we within its beauty, it can speak to us in many ways. Could it be a little robin redbreast, or a pigeon, or a feather that you find, a smell in the air, um, a memory that just comes from nowhere, that that they're weaving themselves within your thoughts as well. It's just finding our relationship with life. We can find our relationships with self and those that love us still. And then through that, we can embrace and grow on those experiences where signs start to show themselves to say maybe even who's close. It could even be guidance in our life where I would get up in the morning where my mind is still little bit groggy, meaning like I'm in an altered state in some way. What a perfect time for them, where I get a song within my awareness. And within that song, it could be to say who's close. It could be just the words to say, here's a bit of guidance. It's going to be all right. It could be the feeling that it gives you. It's, for me personally, music has been a big one for me because music can really move emotions and inspire us. It can move us in a space of contemplation. And personally, I feel it's a great tool. And if we are, this is another way to build your relationship with loved ones and soul self. If we are to create like a playlist, um, there's one I've been listening to recently called Lens Spot. Lens Spot is her name. If you look her up, the music that she has created is so spiritually beautiful. But there is other ones, it's like creating a playlist of certain songs that are pure, happy, they're good, or something that really softly brings your awareness to those we love. And if because we don't always have to sit, listen to meditative music to go into that state in some way. I know a lady that used to, Mavis Patilla, she used to do it, doing the ironing, her time with her loved ones and her friends, guides, if you like. So it's, if we are to create a playlist and play that playlist, maybe one song a day, two songs a day. I'm not feeling so good. I think I'll put this song on. You might be inspired to put that song on. But over time, that can start to build your relationship with your soul self and but also with those that love you. And I could go on with that because music's inspired me in many different ways. But
Mm-hmm.
so I guess that I'm hoping that there's a something for people to take away about guidance in some sense that can help them on their own journey because no one comes for a reading and for me to say, okay, here's your mum, and a nice communication. She loves you, goodbye. In my opinion, they've always given something to help inspire them on their journey to find their own truth for their own selves. Maybe it be at that time where they've been touched so deeply, soul to soul, by that presence of their loved one, might be enough for that seed to grow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry,
beautiful.
sorry, I blathered on for a long time there. I get
No,
carried away.
no, it's okay.
Hmm.
It's if you're guided, whatever you're guided to share is definitely fine. Yeah, and I think like you said, spirit's always there to give us signs and messages. Are we aware of it though? That's the
Yeah,
receptive part because to be in the present moment, to be aware of it, then we get the message. But if we're not paying attention or we're distracted, we tend to miss those opportunities,
yeah,
to be connected. And I think we can
yeah,
all connect to the other side and use, we all have innate abilities. It's, are
Yeah.
we fearful of using them? Are we afraid of what's we're gonna connect to, because there's a lot of belief systems out there that it's bad and don't do it. And,
Yes. Yes.
so it keeps us from wanting to do it, but
Yeah.
everybody, it's very healing. And I know because I kind of did study mediumship for a while. When I do readings, sometimes mediumship does come in, depending on the reading, if they need it or not. But generally, it's not something that I do like full on, like mediumship, like you do, like your main thing is mediumship. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, we can recognize that we all have abilities, if we practice and
Yeah.
tap into it and,
Yeah.
work with it, we can definitely make
And
that connection.
and that could even be just like being an amazing mum, or just doing something you love, or just being loving your job. Like I mentioned with my snowboarding, and how it helped me with my connection there. I got this friend, as you know, I've been into my photography as well. But he used to put these incredible photos up on Facebook and social media, and I was like, how do you do it? Because everywhere you'd see him, he'd just walk around with his camera. He's always got his camera with him, and he says it just happens. I'm like, the most perfect moment of animals. I'm like, to catch that shot, and then he says it just happens. And what I believe is that because it's a love of his, it's something that fulfills him. It allows him to see the beauty in life, especially when it comes to nature, like a horse that's kneeling down, not kneeling down, but leaning over to its young. But in that picture, you can feel it. And in my opinion, that everything in all life is around us all the time. It depends on what we're aware of, is what can limit or enrich us. And how much do we miss? And I think that he's become attuned to that more. So life brings that to his awareness in
Mhm.
some way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And like I do the similar, like when I paint, I do intuitive painting. And
Ah,
when I get into painting, it's like nothing else exists. It's just me and the canvas, and I'm
oh,
creating. And emotions come up, and you can just feel the presence of what you're doing in that moment. And
wow.
with the mediumship, there's a lot of healing, I think, because if we do leave things unresolved with people who passed over, to get a reading or to connect, I think there's a lot of healing in that for
Oh,
people. As you probably know, they can make amends, they can heal, they can let go and move on in life. And when we do the forgiveness work and healing, it changes our lives.
yeah. The
Hmm.
forgiveness work, yeah, definitely. And
Hmm.
forgiving ourselves to start with is, I guess that's the biggest hurdle to get over.
Yeah.
In some ways, is forgiving ourselves for even being hard on ourselves. I mean, I'm guilty of that all the time, and sometimes it's for those around us that see us in us. Where if I'm doubting myself, for example, my wife comes along and gives me a stop that now. It's like we can, yeah,
Yeah.
being around the right people at the right time
Hmm.
can certainly help us on our journey. It was when you were talking about um, your painting there. I could feel it as you were talking about it. But a lady, maybe you might be great. I think you'll get on great with her. Is a lady called Shelley Ewell. I can pass your details if you like. She's a great medium, and her artwork is just phenomenal. You like that? You got big wings behind you there.
Yeah.
She draws like angelic stuff as well, and maybe I could put you in contact with her. I don't know. I got
Yeah.
inspired with that when you were talking there, and I thought, oh, that'd be someone for you.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I'll check her out too as well. Look her
A
up.
good medium.
Yeah, perfect. Um, yeah, and so like if somebody wants to connect to the other side for themselves, what would you recommend? Is it more like meditating, sitting in the power? How would you recommend somebody to start?
I'd say, as again, it's unique to everybody. Um, Connect to someone in the spirit world. It is always because it moves through us as a unique individual, our soul self. Within the soul is all that sensitivity. A little exercise for some might work. As I say, not everything works for everyone because everyone's unique, as I mentioned. But what I do is that whatever we can give our attention to in life, we give our power. We give, and we can it can gain strength. That could be doubtful upon ourselves as well, or being positive. But I found if you can think of where do you feel nervous, when you get nervous, where do you feel it? It's in the abdomen, in the solar plexus area. And then if we think of our heart and every beautiful experience, as I mentioned before, that from those you love has touched and blessed this space. And therefore, if we can bring our attention to our abdomen, we can give strength to that um, sensitivity because over time it'll become more natural where you don't really have to think about it. You can just sit and close your eyes. Sometimes you might, but it can ignite the nervous system. So it makes you more hypersensitive to the feelings, the emotions that can embrace the heart space. So first I would take myself awareness to my abdomen, because you're putting your, giving your strength there, relaxing into the breath in your own natural rhythm, and taking your awareness to your heart as well, even just sitting with your hand on your heart. And you can see some people might feel like holding a photograph of someone they love. And that could even be people in this life. Maybe it's a son that's maybe lost their way a little bit. You're still connected. Sometimes it's just, as I say, the physical body um, might not always respond or be aware, but the soul is. That's what I know. And therefore, take comfort in that. I did, and just sitting in that space, and I said, so that's it. To your awareness to your abdomen, you can give strength to the nervous system and uh, make you more hypersensitive. The heart and the breath, and if you like, play the music that you can come accustomed to over time. And again, you might have to maybe work at it, find the right playlist for you, but at the same time, and I mean, I'm guilty of this because I know this because I'm guilty of it, is I've changed music all the time. I thought, oh no, that one's good. I heard that one, and let's put that in there. Sometimes it might work, but at the same time, what we are building up over time is a naturalness. First, we need to learn it, work on it, or say dedicate it. That's the better way to say it. Dedicate some time and just relax. Listen to the music that you love, something that be positive, that may connect you to those you love as well. Might even be one of their favourite songs. Like one is that I like is it was Bruno Mars, you can count on me like 1, 2, 3, you'll be there. You don't want to listen to my singing, but anyway, it's just something is beautiful and positive, and it doesn't always have to be. I'm trying to find the right words here. I'm going around the houses, and but anyway, it's just abdomen, heart, breath. Listen to the music, but dedicate time. That's one of the most important things, because I think I mentioned in the beginning, only through my experience is I found, because when I came into this awareness, there's been spiritual centres around. Not many here in the Highlands of Scotland, of course. I had to travel like 40 miles so to get to one. But when I was in competition for like 6, 7 months of the year, I had nothing. Nobody. I didn't even have Zoom or anything like that. All I did is dedicate time, and I've got my mind, my thoughts jump all over the place. So again, it's been dedicating time. But what I do know is within that time there is a magic unfolding, and what we're allowing is the magic within your soul presence to embrace you. Sometimes you might have an amazing experience. Sometimes you might feel nothing, but it doesn't mean nothing's happening. And over time, that dedication and that time that you give will become so much more natural. You won't even have to think about it. And that process will just take place, where that presence will start to build and bring that healing, guidance, and so on. But for me personally, in the morning is my best time, because I've not had a busy day, and therefore it's not got so much to work through in some way or say for that busy day to soften in my mind. It can be quite hard at times if it's been too busy. But in the morning, um, if I don't do it, I feel there's a part of me missing as I go on about my day, because I'm less present in myself. Um, anyway, sorry, I've talked away again.
Oh, that's okay.
I could
No.
keep going on.
Yeah. And I for me too, it is in the morning. I think it's because we're kind of in between
Yeah,
the the not body and then the body, if that makes
yeah,
sense. We're kind of like in the transition and coming back
yeah,
into this world, this realm, whatever you want to call it, this consciousness of our
yeah,
daily lives. So we're still kind of in that transition. So for me, it's also, a great time to do my practices.
yeah.
So for people who might, um, how do people know if it's like just their imagination or if it's really
Hmm.
a connection? Like, is there a way to distinguish between that for them if they're just starting to learn so they can learn to trust?
I think in the beginning, um, of course, there's going to be those questions. And I have found, I guess this was my journey in some way, where I have had the practice of delivering a message or say a communication, where then I've had feedback of um, the evidence that has been offered. And that to me in itself taught me that even in the subtleness, there's a magic of those we love that's there. And I think depend how you find your way to do this. May it be with that the inspirational writing. May it be through art. May it be for a walk. And another way, if you can find somebody that you can that's open to this, you can say, "Come close now. Let's spend some time together." And I think again, it's finding that flow, as I mentioned before, and maybe just writing down, or even if you're in a meditative state, for example, or listening to a song, you just get a quick flash of a piece of imagery, and it means nothing to you, and it's so easy to um, let it go and not think anything of it. But that could be the most best piece of evidence that can unfold as you talk about it. As I mentioned about that, I guess it's been in the company of the right people when you're able to talk about it, because when that presence can become alive in a space or a room, like I mentioned with that lady as she talked about her sister. Oh my gosh, the emotion in that space, but there's no way to doubt that. Um, I think another way is if you can find someone that might be at a distance, and you can uh, just allow the spirit world to come close, knowing that you're going to connect with that person that's at a distance, or even someone in front of you, I don't know, and write down or say what you got. And sometimes it's not always until we receive back from someone that brings alive, my gosh, I got that. That's great evidence. It could be the simplest thing. One time I was doing a demonstration for the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle Centre in Edinburgh, and it was online during COVID days and so on, when everything started moving online.
Mm-hmm.
And I give this communication. It's funny, we were talking about writing and poetry as well, but I was giving this communication to this lady from her mum and dad, and I just had to mention poem, and that was it. That, of course, there's a part of me looking, oh my gosh, what poem is it? Is it something that was read out? And they're just saying, give what you get. And when I just mentioned poem, um, she just she just broke down in tears, and she says, "That's all I wanted to hear, because I've been writing poetry um, to them, about them, for them, and I just wanted to hear that word." And that in itself, like the simplicity, the simplest thing can mean so much to somebody else. And again, I'll be quiet in a second. There was a friend of mine's in the spirit world now. At the beginning, I used to say to him, I says, "Well, I'm getting all this information. Len Lobin is his name. I'm getting all this information, but I don't know why they're giving me it to give it to them. I don't know why I'm getting it." And he says, "Well, it's none of your bloody business." And he goes, "Well, what you're doing, if you're trying to make sense of it, and then you're butting in between a conversation, and sometimes it might be that if you close your eyes, listen to that song, and say, 'Show me a sign in life,' you might see an imagery of a butterfly. You might see the word of, or the name of Peter, or when you drive behind a car, a van, or something, and somewhere on that number plate, there's the name of Peter, with all the letters are there together. It's finding your way of building that relationship, I think, and then you will. I think it's just that it's something we to build on, I think, and there'll be times when it is really strong and times when it is subtle. But
Mm-hmm.
when it is subtle, it's just as valuable, and we won't know until we offer it, embrace it, write it down. It might not come alive there and then. It might be as you move on your day, through your week, anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And although like you're saying, like when I meditate or journal or whatever in the morning, sometimes things will come afterwards, like when I'm up and moving and doing other things. And it's like okay, well, why didn't you give this to me when I had my pen and paper? You're giving it to me now and I can't write it down, and so it's really interesting, and whether it's a lag in time, I don't know if that's what it is, or maybe I just wasn't open in that moment, even though I was sitting in meditation. But it's really interesting that it doesn't always come at that moment. It comes later sometimes.
Yeah,
But yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's just
And
finding, because when we look at everything and vibration and frequency, and when we leave the density of this physical form, we vibrate at a higher, faster, quicker frequency, which we are already within the depth of the soul, if you like, that higher state of consciousness. It's already having that conversation, and it's how we find our way to fall in harmony with that, allow the conscious mind to be distracted from the everyday thoughts. Like when I start a reading or a demonstration, for example, I even now my eyes have been over here somewhere because I create a space of focus. And over time, the crazy world of Stevie Whirls can soften for a little while. And as that softens, it allows an opportunity for that soulful expression that brings those we love into our space. Without the soul and the blending of the spirit world and our communication or our relationship with nature and life, natural law, without all of that, things can be quite difficult. I think that's the, the key things to embrace that will allow experiences to be stronger as we move forward.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you also did quite a bit. Like you even have a poem, I think, "The Spirit Within." Can you talk a little bit about the spirit within?
Oh yeah. Yes, yes. Oh, yeah, you've been on my website, have you?
Yes.
'Cause, yeah, I made this was inspired by this the lady Mavis Patilla, and well, it was a bit of a journey to get it onto audio, but it's another story. And that was part of the exercise. Was okay, go away and write about the spirit within, and that's maybe a great. It's good that you say that. That's another exercise people can do to feel, and they can write about the spirit within every day, and that's another way to bring that strength to the surface. And during that time of writing it, because I'm really dyslexic, and trying to get feelings, emotions, and things on paper is not so easy to me. And I found that it just had to unfold as I went along. But the thing is, what was happening, what I know now, is I was growing with it. And it took a long time, and it's not that long, it's like a page and a half. But it took a long time because when I wrote something, and I thought, oh, that's all right, that'll do. Um, as I laid down at night or got up in the morning, when the mind's in that state, or in a daydream state, or listening to music, I thought of it. I thought, oh no, I need to reword that part. That part doesn't make sense. And I think in some way it had to be true to me. And I guess in some way too, within the truth of it, I, the truth of it, that expression, as I say, I did my best to find words to that. Hopefully, it can mean something to many people. Because it talks about embracing life, and I guess you just need to go and have a look at it. But
Hmm.
it's a free download, and it's people can download it in audio. because I spent a long time. This was a journey and a half again. I won't go into that. Me learning about audio took a long time, and so I created a voiceover with music behind it. I created it on a PDF file so people can download it, use it in the spiritual centers, read it to themselves. I don't know, whatever you wish. And I also created a video of it, where it was a while ago now. I probably should change it. Look back at it, but it's with my knowledge on the computer doing this. It was limited at the time, but I think it was all right. It was a nice job where the music and the words is put into vision in some sense, where it's kind of like animated in some way. Like it tells a story as it goes through the video, as it put together, and it also decided to put my kilt on and take people that want to listen into a special space of mine up in the mountains and talk about it there. And it was a beautiful space out in the mountains and the heather, and the birds were singing, the sun was shining, and it was just a special space at that time. And I hope that it can touch many people's hearts, minds, and souls. So that was the real um, um, purpose of it, I guess. But it was inspired by the lady Mavis Patilla that gave us it as an exercise on one of her advanced mentorships. It was called for a few years ago now. And then I realised afterwards as well that she did her own one. And I didn't know that at the time. So maybe something to look up Mavis Patilla and look up her one as well, because
Beautiful.
that's beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed that. Thank you for creating that.
thank
Definitely
you.
for people who might be interested in checking it out. Um, and with doing mediumship, have you had problems with like setting boundaries? Are there like spirits that want to come forth and talk, even though maybe you're not in the place where you're doing readings? Because some people
Um,
have talked, shared that they have
yeah.
to set boundaries, or maybe there's times where spirit doesn't show up when they are doing readings, or
Mm,
there's things that go on which doesn't always, I guess, align with what we're working on. So like if we're busy in
yeah.
our day, spirit might come in and say, "Hey, I want a reading to be given to so and so." You know, does that ever happen to you, or if they
For
don't show up?
no, for me, it doesn't happen. Um, I find that because I create, I guess there was that saying, as Mavis said, um, um, the soul called you, and the spirit world says, "Thank God you're awake." And sometimes it's that soul that just keeps that's forever present in many people, and I guess it's hard to close that off in some way. And what I've found, what's come through in readings and so on, is creating that space and that time, as you said, like boundaries. And it's when we create a space and a time, which, as I sit in the presence every day, like you got your way as well, and then we're giving them a time and a place. And I think quite a lot of it's down to our intention, but attention. So if something's coming through all the time, we gotta say, nah, no, this time, come back then, and then you'll give that time. And I guess also it's how much you give your attention to that. because we don't want that to take over our life. We've got to live a physical life, material life. We've got to live our own life. We deserve a life too, you know. And I think if we are honourable and respectful of our own self and how and our quality of life as well. And the thing is that sometimes there might be a need for the spirit world, or we might be open to the spirit world, but is that other person ready to hear from the spirit world? That's another thing. I guess that's where the boundaries come in again. Like you mentioned, this is a personal responsibility, and it's finding your space and time, and giving them an opportunity at the right times. So for me, it was sitting in the presence every day, and if I'm wanting to develop more, or be more open to it, go to a workshop, go to like an open circle, if you like, or wherever spiritual development place. You're given it a space and a time and an opportunity. And then, yeah, it's just as you say, it's setting your boundaries, it's a space and time, open the opportunities when it's in our terms, as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, because sometimes I get them and I'm like, no, not right now. So I've been through that process, when I first started accepting,
Yeah.
that I have that connection. But definitely. Um, and then with the type of mediumship do you do is it's evidential, is that right? Evidential mediumship?
Yes. Well, when I yes, yes.
Mm.
But also when I sit for the spirit world, I don't sit for physical mediumship, trance mediumship, evidential mediumship. I completely sit just for spirit, just to be. And then whatever is natural within me will grow, and it will find its strength and move you in the right direction as well. So I found in my home circle, if you like, closed group, where I have been like I move into the altered states where the spirit world will speak inspirationally through me, as well. And of course, within that journey, it's natural that and I heard a great medium saying this too, physical medium, incredible medium. He's been world famous. He said, even with the greatest will in the world, the mind of the medium is going to interrupt no matter what at some time. And therefore, again, it's recognizing that. And where we have, I wouldn't say made mistakes, that's the wrong way to say it. Where, as you say, just recognized, okay, how much has been my mind and how much has been the spirit world's mind. Like the other day, about 2 weeks ago, I was doing a demonstration, and there was a lady, and she was quite fascinating actually. She came on, and she's done a lot. I can't wish I remembered her name. She does a lot of research within near-death experiences as well, and consciousness and the science of it as well. It was really inspiring. But when I started off, it's like sometimes the information comes first, and then after that, it brings the presence, depending on how they're to work with me. But anyway, I just saw like a pencil case, pink pencil case, and there was a few other things in there, and there's like a book and things like that. And that lady put up her hand and says like, "Oh, I can take that because I've just finished writing a children's book as well, and I've got a pink pencil case." I think that's where it was anyway. But there was another lady that put up her hand too, And I thought, okay, this other lady, she's had quite a lot of communications before, and not that it's wrong, but I thought, okay, that I was thinking, because how surprised the first lady was who I went to, and like, oh, that's great, it's like, to me it felt good. But as I tried to give more information, it just wouldn't work. It just wouldn't fit. It just the kind of like got more sticky, less subtle, less flowing. And then I realized that this is me in this. I wanted it for that lady. I thought, okay, that sounds like good evidence. That would be great. Let's go with her. Never thinking at that time until I surrendered to it. Okay, let's go to this other lady that's had a communication before, which is all right. And then it just flowed. So therefore, it was that intelligence that was already at work, but moving with it that allowed it to that brought it alive in some way. And yeah, it was a nice communication. I said, if they want to come to a demonstration,
Okay.
there's some that I do for free as well, and that involves music sometimes too. And if just keep an eye on guess my website, Facebook, and then I do some like spiritual like demonstrations where I'm invited to take a spiritual service, for example, and that as well. So they can find me there, and I guess as I say, some of them are free, also. And there's also like a free meditative experience called Discover Your Magic that I do often as well.
And where do you see the legacy of your work going? Where do you hope that it leads you, or how does it help people?
Oh my gosh, that's a real big question. I think staying humble in it, not always knowing the next step that's going to come. Because therefore, just like what I was mentioning before, like in the snowboard, it's like being in the moment with it. Just like in the workshop delivered just before we come on here, it was inspired by the spirit world. I think my um, my feeling that I would really wish for others to feel and understand is the presence. Because without the presence and the blending, words can just be words and there's no life behind it. And as I mentioned, it's where all the feeling comes from. If people can understand their own presence, feel the presence of those that love them, and to know also that nobody always needs a medium, that sometimes it's just looking at our own qualities of living. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's like it's not always about dying, it's about living. The spirit world have always come forward and just say, no, come on now, pick yourself up. I love you, I'm still here. Let's carry on living. And then I can live and be happy with you. And I think if people can embrace even just a little part of that and find a quality of life, not just what life in this material world teaches us, but to follow I was going to say, yes, follow their dreams, but follow, do what makes them happy and fulfills them, because that brings healing. It brings the soul alive within them. It brings them in the moment and time. And in that space, your loved ones can meet you there. Your loved ones can embrace that experience also. And I just wish I really wish that people can really truly see, experience, and feel how amazing they are, and just live, keep living. I think that's the best thing. It's about life and living, embracing the beauty, the happiness, as much as we can. Yes, hardships happen, but what do we do with that? We did an interview a few weeks ago, actually. The topic was finding beauty in grief, and if we can find that, you see, it's there because it's been sparked by love, and a life and a love that still lives. And I guess sometimes maybe people might just have to take my word for it. I hope so, that it might be even that seed that we mentioned before, that if we nourish it, it can grow. Not to force it. It's about giving dedication and time, obviously. And just like it's because it's nature, like a rose, for example, it's nature, it's natural law. We can't force a rose to open and bloom. If we nurture it in the right way, with the right amount of light, um, and there's that saying as well, there is no flowers without rain. So as tears, as emotion fall, and then that hardships, if we think of those clouds as the rain, that, they could be quite heavy. But as we surrender that rain and the tears, if you like, at times, it can nourish that soil and allow those clouds and heaviness to be lighter. And it's part of the journey. Just knowing that we're all loved, always.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, yeah. And definitely, spirits always told me there really is no death, it's only dying, dying to our
Yeah.
illusions, dying to our false thoughts, and it's re regenerating. Like, what other ways can we look at things? How else can we show up? And then even like in our transition, we transition to the side. We never really, there is no real death. It's just a dying. It's a
Yes.
process of evolution. So I love
Yeah.
that. So,
Oh,
and it's
thank
all
you.
about living. So
Absolutely.
thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're welcome. Thank you. I really
you're
enjoyed my
welcome.
time.
Thank you as well.
Let's talk about death, baby. Let's talk about you and me. We're not the one and only. It's going to happen to everybody. Yeah, baby. Say it isn't so, baby. It's the truth, don't you know, baby? We're all consciousness, living out our reason in a world of endless stories. Set from the beginning, we race to the finish as we face the harsh reality. We don't remember where we come from or where we're going. But don't you worry, baby. We are all worthy of the one true story. It isn't in the distant past, it's the future that unfolds. So come along with me and you will see. It's evolutionary, baby, you and me. So let's talk about death, baby. Let's talk about you and me. We're not the one and only. It's going to happen to everybody. You don't have to listen to me. The path will reveal its untold stories. So let's all just be happy, living in the moment of opportunity. We will all find out it's not a mystery. Yeah. We're not the one and only that's going to face this reality. But let's not worry, baby. It's not the end of the journey. Don't you know, you and me, we are